So I'm about to sit down and edit this video, but I want to start it off with a caveat that today I'm really fighting a meltdown. So if I seem kind of all over the place and squirrely, it's because I am. I also wanted to say that these may seem like easy, duh type tips that I have for you today, but it's some things that I really try to keep in mind for myself. I want to delve deeper into this topic at a different time. I wanted to also say that if you have children and you're on the spectrum or you're neurodivergent, there's a good chance that some or all of your children could be too. So that adds another element of difficulty sometimes. But yeah, so here's just a few simple tips that I try to remember in my day-to-day parenting life. Okay guys, hello and welcome back to Authentically Alexis. So I got a comment on the last video from Brandy talking about neurodivergent mothers, how to navigate that, kind of what the symptoms that we see on our day-to-day life being a mother on the spectrum. I don't have a whole lot of talking points on this yet. I really like to prepare before videos or prepare before really everything, but this topic has been really huge on my mind today. So I figured I would just pop on and say some of the basics, the things that come to my mind, because this has actually been something I've been struggling with today. So hopefully this will give you guys a bit of encouragement if you're struggling with the same stuff. So as mothers, whether neurodivergent or neurotypical, we can struggle on a day-to-day basis with overstimulation, overwhelm. There's just so much going on, right? If you have 2+ kids, even if you have one kid, that's hard because you're responsible for the well-being of this whole other person outside of yourself. For me personally, I have 4 kids. 3 of them are under 6, 6 and under. So as you can imagine, my house can be quite loud sometimes. So being a mother and being neurotypical, you can get overwhelmed and overstimulated as well. But if you add some neurodivergence on top of that, it can be quite a challenge. So some things that have really helped me, because remember, as mothers, we really have to strive to be that calm in the storm for children. They're experiencing big emotions, especially toddlers. They're navigating how to regulate themselves. They often don't have the vocabulary necessary to express their emotions in a healthy way. So we kind of need to be those anchors for them. But that being said, nobody's perfect. We're humans too, and a lot of us struggle with those things ourselves as adults. So I would say that the number one tip I have is to manage and decrease the amount of burnouts and meltdowns that we have. And there's a lot of things that we can put in place to do that. So if you are parenting a 3-year-old and they're having frequent meltdowns, because that's their job at this age, they're learning how to navigate the world, they're learning how to communicate and all that stuff. So if we're out of control, if we're not managing our emotions, who's going to be that model for them? We have to be the calm one in the situation, because if we're meeting their meltdowns or their tantrums with meltdowns and tantrums, it's not going to go anywhere. So I would say, again, I'm looking down at my notes here because I have a lot going on today, but I'm really passionate about this topic specifically. So I wanted to talk about some of this stuff. So one way that I manage my burnout, my shutdowns and meltdowns is structure and routine. Kids, whether on the neurodivergent side or the neurotypical side, thrive on structure. All kids thrive on structure. Structure and routine is something that they can count on. It's something that they feel anchored to. That way, when they feel out of control, they know that XYZ throughout my day is going to stay the same. It makes them feel a sense of safety. So committing to a structure and a routine in your day-to-day life for yourself and for your kids, I think is extremely important. But that being said, don't overcommit yourself. That kind of goes along with the structure and routine thing. Have things that you know that they can rely on. Every day we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and that way it makes them feel grounded. But don't overcommit yourself. This is somewhere where I recently fell short. I was super upset and self-conscious about why I couldn't get up and get out and do things because of struggling in social situations, struggling with executive functioning, so making appointments on time, being at activities at a certain time, like time-sensitive things are hard for me. So, oh, my child needs me. Okay, I'm back. One of my children needed me, so I had to put a pause on that. So where was I? I was talking about structure and routine and overcommitting yourself. So where I was recently, I was at a state of overcommitting myself and overcompensating for where I felt like I fell short. I signed my kids up for all the activities. I thought that this would be great for them, but really it ended up causing a lot more stress for me, and that ended up causing a lot more stress on my kids. Remember, they are going to feed off of your energy. If you're in a chaotic state, if you're stressed out, they're going to feel that, and it's going to stress them out too. So I would say limiting your activities. Choose one activity at a time to do, because too much is just not going to be a good thing, specifically if you're neurodivergent. Now, the third tip I want to talk about is not reacting, but instead responding. So let me explain. So if your child is coming up to you just red-faced, teary-eyed, freaking out over something and needing your help, and you're already overwhelmed, you're already behind on your to-do list, there's too much noise in the house is a mess. I'm someone who's really affected by my environment. So if my child is running up to me and freaking out over something that's seemingly small but big in their hearts, I can explode. I can blow up and react too quickly. So a reaction is kind of like a split-second decision. You might raise your voice, and that's not going to be helpful. So responding in comparison to reacting is hearing what they have to say, taking a step back, taking a breath, and often it only takes a couple of seconds to snap you out of that fight or flight mode. So taking a breath when there's a lot of craziness going on and your child needs you, it can seriously do wonders. I notice a huge difference when I just turn around and respond and I'm like, you guys are driving me crazy. Or if I take a second, take a deep breath, make sure that the deep breath is noticeable to the child too, because if they see you, look at them, okay, what can I do to help you? That type of thing. It's going to kind of trigger that same reaction in them. I'm on tip number 4, and tip number 4 is taking time to process your feelings and your overwhelm. Specifically, if you're on the autism spectrum, it can take us a lot more time than the neurotypical person to process things. We might get in an argument with our spouse, have a really overwhelming day, and slowly the shutdown or the meltdown starts to happen, and we don't understand why. So giving yourself the time and space to process can really, really do wonders with on the motherhood aspect, because that's going to give you a more clear head as well. And even processing out loud, talking to your kids about how you're feeling. Obviously, your children don't need like a completely overly emotional weeping mother all the time. But if you can kind of conduct yourself, take some deep breaths, maybe sit your child on the couch and talk to them about how you're feeling, that can be a really great way to model how to work through emotions and how to process feelings. That can also help give your child the vocabulary and understanding how to efficiently process their own feelings. Now this one isn't just for parents, it's this one specifically for moms or people with a uterus and ovaries. So when it comes to managing your hormones, that can be a huge, huge trigger for neurodivergent mothers. So there are some recent studies linking PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and autism. It could be ADHD as well, but I think it directly links to autism and perhaps SPD, which is sensory processing disorders. So this can mean that if you are on the spectrum or neurodivergent, sometimes that time of the month is even more intense for us. These other neurological disorders can affect the way that we perceive pain. It can be just a sensory mess. So knowing your body, I think, is really important if you're a neurodivergent mother. Just charting your cycle, paying attention to your symptoms. That way, if you are just feeling like you are at your wit's end and you're gonna explode, check in with yourself, maybe keep it on an app and see where you are on your cycle. That can do wonders for your attitude as a mother. Okay, and the last thing that I want to talk about today is having good sleep hygiene. So I think that there are some things as moms that we put on the back burner, specifically when it comes to taking care of our needs and putting ourselves above our kids. I know it's cliche, everyone talks about it, fill your cup first, put on your oxygen mask first, but there's really something to be said about taking care of yourself and your body. So something that neurodivergent people can have is kind of a mind-body disconnect, and we can kind of put our hygiene, our sleep schedule, and just the general taking care of our bodies on the back burner and forget to do it. So I have noticed that when I'm having good sleep hygiene, when I'm getting to bed, it doesn't have to be super early, but at least at a consistent time every night, and waking up at a consistent time, I have a lot more patience as a mother. So setting yourself a really, really good night routine to help wind yourself down, I think, is super important. So a lot of people on the spectrum, a lot of people with ADHD, they have comorbidities. So that means that if you have, say you have dyslexia and ADHD, you're automatically more likely to have something like autism. They can kind of go hand in hand. So one of those things is sleep disorders, like insomnia, trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep. I can do a whole video on that, but something that I would recommend is if you are a scroller, investing in some blue light blocker glasses. That can really help. Another thing is just setting yourself a strict bedtime and trying to stay within 30 minutes of that bedtime every night. So I'm not going to go any further onto the sleep stuff because I can make a video detailing my nighttime routine and the things that have helped me. So yeah, I think that's the end of this video. Just a few tips for neurodivergent moms, the things that help me and the things that I take really lightly sometimes. I put these things on the back burner because I prioritize other things before this, but I swear when you're taking better care of yourself, when you are learning how to regulate your emotions and modeling that for your children, it can do wonders for the relationship between you and your children and the relationship with you and motherhood in general. I'll see you next time.